mining issues in Zamfara such that we have not seen that kind of deployment just yet?
I've said to you, it is the commitment of the authority in the state. If the authority in the state feels concerned and committed, they will shout. I mean, we expected this governor long time ago when this cattle rustling started, killings and kidnapping. Before it gets to this level it is now, which is getting out of hand.
Is the underlying, my apologies, if you allow me to come in here again, is the issues about cattle rustling in Zamfara state, or is it about mineral resources control?
Well, it could be about anything, but we are talking of the discharge of responsibilities of officers and people who have been given that constitutional responsibility. Whether it is solid minerals or whatever, you have a responsibility to ensure that the security of life and properties of the citizens of the state and everybody living in the state is achieved. But things are happening and you keep quiet. You don't stay in the state. You don't seem to care and you don't complain. People have been complaining individually. We have members of the National Assembly who, until one of them started shouting, people are being killed in Zamfara state and nobody is saying anything about it. Nobody is talking about it. Then he brought the attention of the world to focus on Zamfara state. I commend that, that legislator. And even at that, the government was adamant as if nothing was happening. And somebody is saying the obvious, and the government is adamant. We expected an immediate action by state government to confirm what that legislator was saying. But they kept quiet until the world started shouting. Other people in the country started shouting, Zamfara is under siege. Zamfara is, people are being killed. And up to now, what do we see? Only recently he comes out to say he supports state of emergency. But this state of emergency, people have been calling for it and the man kept quiet. We should be able to discharge our responsibilities, constitutional responsibilities. And that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Akonji,
yes,
in a situation where the head of the chief executive officer of a state is unable to do certain things because of the apparatus that he has at his disposal, there are those who will say a look at the structure of that apparatus might help. So let's look at the security architecture as it is right now. Do you think a restructuring of the security architecture would help in any way to give state governors more power to execute that responsibility of securing lives and property within their environment?
Well, it depends on the context, but I think it will improve. It will improve the state of security affairs in these various states, one. And also, we're just hoping that it doesn't really get abused by the governors. You see, we have to begin to move to a level of holding our leadership by accountability. And people are talking about state policing, which is a very good way in securing the country because our military and police are overstretched. So we need to have another balance to actually add to the manpower of what we have on ground. Fantastic. But even in the Zamfara state, they have vigilantes. I think they have a civilian joint task force that they created, about 5,000 of them, to see how they can actually help. That's a quasi form of security intervention from the leadership of the government. And also the governor also was asking people with weapons to bring weapons back and to give them about $1 million. That was also helping mopping out illegal weapons in circulation. But I think beyond that, there is more a governor can do, even with the existing structures on ground. Now, let's work with what we have on ground before we move into what we think is right. You have the entire service chiefs there. You have a commissioner of police who's there. Mind you, the police have about 1,000 special forces that's in Zamfara. You have the army, you have DSS, you have the Air Force. They are all on ground there. So and of course, he's the number one of the state, number one man of the state. So they can all work in uniformity with him. They can have a structured goal to see how they can solve this crisis for now. And then look out for a constitutional way of trying to see how you can actually advance the cause or
Akonji, if I may come in here, when we're looking at the structure on ground, Mr. Akonji, you've heard several governors at different times, not just at this time, different governors at different times talk about the fact that sometimes they give instructions to these service chiefs that you talk about within their environment, the police, the DSS and all that, and they are not followed through because they also have to respond to whatever is coming from the top, from the federal axis. So if whatever command is coming from the top doesn't match what is given to them at the state, they will not respond. So how do you expect them to work with these people you say are within their environments? I'm not talking about Zamfara, I'm talking about other state governors that have complained about this kind of situation.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. But you see, the governor has a security briefing on all the service chiefs always, and maybe like once every week in the state. And I think what I see here as leadership is that you can find a striking balance. You can have a relationship with the tops of the service chiefs in your state. That's like the IGP of police, the chief of air staff, chief of army staff, and then they all share intelligence with the governor. So there are different cocktails on how you can actually deal with this and then get it. Other states are doing very fine. Zamfara is not an isolation. It doesn't mean Zamfara cannot get better. But I feel as a leader, you have to, the onus is on you to find a solution to a problem. And this is what we want from our leadership across board. So if it means you going the extra mile of trying to cut relationship with this service chief, you do that from both sides, both from the national and from the state. You have a balance. And you can now deploy that for action. And then in the end of it, we hope to see a more secure states across the country.
You say that there's a level of connivance between the residents in Zamfara state and those bandits. How did you get your information?
Well, it was at the public display. The Minister of Defense said this. The governor himself, when he just came back and he said it, he said there should be this warning that the residents should be careful because they've been able to get intelligence. I guess some of the arrests that were made, they were traced back to people that stayed around the community, and they traced them back to the bandits.
So at this point,
they also have a role to play. It's not just the government, not just the security. That's why I say all stakeholders need to come in together to see how they can share the rightful intelligence and halt this unnecessary killings.
So at this point, since that has been established, what then should the security agents do? Because we understand that there's been some arrests that have been made and some bandits are in the kitty of the security forces.
Prosecution. They should take them to court and they should prosecute them. There has to be a signal that has to be sent to others that if you're caught wanting, this is what happens, this is what your fate will be. There has to be, for every action you do, there should be consequences for actions. And that's the only way people can behave themselves properly. If you get someone, you get him to the courts, and then there's a judgment against him that's passed, and that's established, others will understand that this is what's going on. And mind you, this crisis has been on since 2011. That's why sometimes some of us are a little bit disappointed in the governor. 2011, it's been recorded that there were over 60 attacks in Zamfara. There was a deadly one that happened in 2012 where they killed about 50 vigilantes. So from 2011, 2012 to 2018, 6 years at the mantle of leadership, and then you come today and tell us that, oh, come on, it shows that there's been a huge deficiency. And we can't tolerate that because we can't allow innocent Nigerian soldiers to be dying like that, like animals. That's not, no one wants to tolerate that kind of thing in this country. So everybody needs to come together, stakeholders and traditional institutions too, because they are the ones that steal the people. They have to come in so much well here and say they can resolve this crisis.
Mr. Mande, at this point, what would you recommend, especially when you look at the formation, the police formation in Zamfara State, the police formation in other states, for example, that are facing similar situations, and how the military should come in? What will be your recommendations? Because we understand that the army in this kind of scenario will have to come in first to ensure that the place is secured, people are safe, before the police now comes in to put some kind of civil order in that place. What would be your recommendation?
I think in this case, it has to be a joint operation. The military is already in Zamfara State. The army, the air force are there. And the police is there also. Plus the civil security, they have to sit down, do evaluation of the situation, and re-strategize and come up with a new action plan, which they have to implement and stop this killing. The civil society is very key to this because they are the ones that are in direct touch with the communities. And they will be able to fish out those informants, those collaborators with the bandits. The civil society know them, they know who they are, and they know where the bandits are based. And it's not a very big deal to pick up those bandits because their location is well known. The military is well a trained force in this kind of operations, they know what to do. All they need is correct directive and logistics support. And I believe together they can change the situation in Zamfara state.
Because one will want to compare notes here and say that if the government could decimate Boko Haram, I mean, it should be just a piece of cake for them to decimate the bandits in Zamfara state. But the bandits seem to be growing stronger and stronger, more endearing every other day. So if your recommendations should come through, what guarantee is there that we would have achieved the kind of successes we recorded fighting Boko Haram as to fighting the bandits?
Thank you. You see, if you look at it, the bandits in Zamfara state are not as sophisticated as Boko Haram. They don't have the weaponry that Boko Haram has. They don't have the experience that the Boko Haram has. But what happened is that the bandits in Zamfara state have been tolerated by the concerned authority. There has been no proactive measures. There has been no commensurate reaction to the threat they pose to life and property in Zamfara state. That is why I'm calling all the relevant agencies and civil authority to sit together and re-strategize and come up with a plan that is workable in order to get rid of these bandits out of Zamfara state. Is achievable, but the commitment needs to be there, but is achievable.
Okay, break now, and when we come back, we'll take a look at some other areas as we try to expand and understand what actually is happening in Zamfara state. Join us again.